Good evening. We are live. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my co-host, Miss G, Miss Georgette Truan. Miss G, how are you this evening?
I'm good, and you?
Doing good, doing good. And we have a very special guest, Miss Beth Fisher. Miss Fisher, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good, good, good. Where are you calling us from?
From Edenton, North Carolina.
North Carolina. How far is that from Greensboro?
We're about 4 hours away from Greensboro. We're on the coast.
About maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, I did a case in Greensboro, CPS case.
hmm
So very interesting setup they have for CPS and the CPS courts in North Carolina. But I wanted to mention to people that we are starting finally, Miss G. We are implementing the new call-in system. So if anyone had Miss G, write down this number: 800-871-7282. 800-871-7282. So during our shows, if anybody wants to call in and ask a question, we now have the technological ability to do that. They
That's
don't
good news.
they don't necessarily have to come on the stream again. As a matter of fact, repeat that number: 800. I'll put it in the post.
800-871-7282.
Okay. Oh, I messed that up. 800-871-7282, right?
Yeah.
Again. All right. So, Miss Beth, what is happening in North Carolina with you and CPS?
My six of my grandchildren are currently in CPS custody, um, ranging in age from almost 18. He's getting ready to age out to almost 2 years old now, and the youngest I've never been able to meet. Um, my son and daughter-in-law lived across the street from us. We were in and out of the home daily. They were very active in their community and in the church. Um, not hiding away secluded. They were very public people, and they had allegations and reports come in that in we have documentation that they were actually malicious reports that were filed, but they still acted on them. Um, the oldest child ran away from home on January 3rd, 2021, and was found 10 days later and taken to the emergency room, um, where he was in good condition. Um, the children were not taken until June 3rd. So there was some question as to why, when the issues stemmed from this child, when he wasn't back in the home, why they acted 6 months after he was not in the home anymore. Um, the narrative stated in there, um, basically just hearsay from these malicious reports. They did not have any physical evidence at all. And we have my daughter and son-in-law were very meticulous in the documentation that they had. They had medical records for the children. They had therapy records from the children, counseling records, school records. They were homeschooling some of the children. So they had all of these records, um, and we have yet to be able to present those to anybody that can look at them and see. We have over 23 entities that saw the children in both professional and just casual settings that stated clearly over and over there was no sign of abuse or neglect for these children. These children were very well kept. were very kind, polite, very well behaved, um, very loving with their parents, not obviously not scared of the parents. Um, we have almost 100 pictures from the last visit that my son and daughter-in-law had with the two youngest children at that time. And you can tell from the pictures that there was no fear. This was a supervised visit, but there was no fear of the parents. And that was the last time that anyone in our family has been able to see these children, and that was June 16th of 2021.
Whoa. Whoa.
2021.
Yes,
What? That's
yes.
far. I mean, that's kind of.
Have the parental rights been terminated and these kids adopted?
They have not. They have not. They had a hearing on November 21st. Um, the plan was for them to terminate parental rights at that time. But my daughter did file an appeal at that time. Um, so we're waiting on that. Um, but as far as we know, they have not been terminated yet. We have not been notified if they have.
Well, the parents don't have attorneys.
My they had court-appointed attorneys who had the information that basically just walked them through the process without really defending them. We
Well,
did
What
other
was the reason, though?
report any.
What was the reason they took the grandchildren from them?
The allegations were stemming from the oldest child. Reports that he had been hit, that twisting everything around that they used. He had been involved with juvenile justice, and the counselor there had suggested boxing as a outlet for the oldest child's aggression and issues that he had. And so they bought the setting for it and did it with the gloves on, not violently, but just, with the punching bag and just teaching him boxing. And that was turned around to he was beaten with it. And everything was just twisted. All of the suggestions that they made using physical activities as punishment, jumping jacks, extra chores, or what my son-in-law and daughter did, but because that was what CPS actually suggested.
Right.
But when they suggested that, when they acted on that, that was a problem for them.
But how old is the son?
He was 15 at the time that he ran away. He will be 18 this month.
But so he was a teen.
Yes.
And his father was trying to teach him, right?
Yes. Yes.
Teach him to defense moves and stuff like that.
Yes.
That's a normal thing, though. Fathers do that.
It is, and it was totally taken out of context and totally twisted.
Of course.
To look like it was something else.
Yeah, of course. How come the kids were not placed with you, though?
I was called the morning that the children were removed and asked if they were removed, if I could take them, and I said absolutely, I could. Their first hearing was on June 10th, and that was the initial hearing. The judge set the date for June 23rd for a hearing for temporary placement. So the caseworker was given that amount of time to do interviews and home visits, home inspections, things like that. The caseworker called us, both myself and the paternal grandmother, called us on the 22nd when she had all that time to do it. She called us on the 22nd. And at that time, she said that she could meet with me on July 1st to do an interview and home visit, home inspection.
Mhm.
On July 1st, she called me. Well, back up just a minute. On the 23rd in court at this temporary hearing, she made the statement that she had done everything she could. She had done her due diligence to try to place these children with families. And she had called, like I said, both of us grandmothers on the 22nd. To me,
Mm.
that's not due diligence in trying to place with family. Um, but she came out, well, she called me on July 1st and stated that she could come out that day to do the home inspection, home visit, and the interview.
Right.
And so we set a time for that. She called me about an hour later and said she could not make it out there for that time, that she
Mhm.
couldn't leave the office, if I could come there at 2 o'clock and have the meeting there. And I'm blonde, but I was trying to figure out how you do a home visit, home inspection at their office. But we did do the interview part. We did do that there. And then she stated that it would be probably a couple of weeks before she could do the home inspection, that she was just swamped. Um, at that time, I called our town councilman because the um, the okay, the oldest was placed in a therapeutic foster home, and the older two daughters were placed with their other biological parents. So I mean, and we were concerned about that, but our main concern were the youngest three, especially the one that was 4 years old at the time, because he had never been away from my daughter for any length of time, and definitely had separation issues. So, it was a concern for us to get them at least back with family, with somebody that they knew, as soon as possible. So when she said it would be a few weeks before she could do the home inspection, I called our town councilman, and I explained the situation, and I was like, I know that, this is the first rung up that I'm supposed to call and get in touch with. Um, so I called him, and within an hour, she called and said that she could be there the following week, early the following week. And she came out and did the inspection. When she did that, she said everything looked okay. There were a couple of suggestions. I think the only thing really was putting the outlet plugs in. Um, but I asked her, I said, do you have a time frame, when I might know if I will, in fact, be able to get the children? And she said, well, no, we haven't even contacted the other family members yet. Um, we have a very large family, so we had a lot of family members that were willing and able to take them. My sister was one, and she was already foster certified. Um, but when the caseworker set the appointment with the paternal grandmother, she had it set for the afternoon. So she had taken the day off from work, had closed her shop, taken the day off at work, and was there waiting. The caseworker never showed up. When she called her, she said, "Oh, that's right, that was today." Um, so they reset that. They did the interview, but basically it came down to the fact that because we didn't believe what was in the narrative, because we knew better. We, not only with what we saw and experienced in the home ourselves, but in the medical records that they had, and all of the documentation they had, we knew this was not true. And because we didn't believe it was true, we were not an option, because we were a threat, because we were, quote unquote, denying what went on.
I was muted. Let me say this. Let me say this. In my humble opinion, the fact that you didn't believe the narrative is not a reason to keep you from getting the grandkids. Now, there are two things you have to do, though. Number one, you have to be able to have the fortitude to go to court with a lawyer, preferably, and fight for the kids. Number two, and sometimes I tell people this, I tell them, hey, if you tell them you don't believe the allegations, there's a possibility that you will not get the children placed with you. If you tell them that you do believe the allegations, they will, of course, interview and use all your statements against the parents. So you
Right.
have these two opposite poles. So what I suggest, only if they believe it, because I don't want anybody to lie to a government official, you feel me? Is I
Mm.
suggest you say, well, this is what I would say if I was the grandfather. I don't know if it's true or false. I wasn't there. But I will do everything in my power to protect these children from the parents and obey the judge's orders and obey all of your orders. Pretty hard to disqualify somebody on that with that answer. But I
Mhm.
can tell you it's been 30 years and I hear that excuse all the time. And that's not the law. That's not the law in California. Here's what it's like. One of these things, they find you guilty of abuse, and unless you admit it in the next 6 months, we're not going to give you the kids back. That's clearly not the law in California. I don't know about North Carolina, but there's reported cases in California about that. The fact that you admit or don't admit might be an indication of something, but by itself can't be used to keep the kids away from you. So it's the same for the relatives, you know, but nobody wants to hear the relatives because you asked the social worker, she told you no, and that's all you did. You
Mhm.
never got Johnny Cochran, and you never went to court to fight for the grandkids because you didn't know you could, or you
Right.
didn't know how, right? Or you didn't have the money to hire Davis to go to court,
Mhm.
or or whatever reason. Or here's what I find all the time, and it's so slick. It's so slick what workers do. They tell you, "Hey Beth, I can't give you the kids right now, but just wait. I'm going to get those kids to you," or words to that effect. And you know what, Beth? You never get the grandkids. And by the time you wake up and you go get Johnny Cochran to go to court, it's too late. Because then they're going to say, "Oh, you know what? Beth, you should have went to court a year ago." But now the kids have a psychological, emotional, and physical bond to the foster parents, and it would be detrimental to move them. So even though you're the grandmother, too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
I hear that story all the time, Beth. And when
Mhm.
I tell people, "Hey, you know what? If you're a relative, get in there early, like first hearing, second hearing, get a lawyer, go get the children." They don't believe me. And mainly it's because I'm going to guess it costs money, right? And they don't think that their government is going to ever do something like that to them. And it happens every day. I can't tell you, Beth, how many calls I get. Miss G, how many calls do you get? 7 days a week. This same story. The same story.
A lot.
Grandma can't get the kids. Doesn't know why. Never been to court. Social worker's been telling grandma, just hold on, hold on. We're going to do something. And nothing's ever done.
You
It,
give
it,
them
it,
false hope. False hope.
it's such a strategy that I see.
Hmm.
And I think they're trained to do this.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, you don't realize this, but I don't know if you know this, but you're involved in a lawsuit. A versus B. And guess what? A, the social worker is trying to win at all costs and will pull any move that they can to win. They have their own agenda, Beth, and it's not your agenda.
No.
Right.
And you thought your government would never do this, or your government would always do things to keep the children together? No, they
I've
don't.
I've I've learned that's not true.
I know, but Sunday, someone called me, and there was no football or basketball on. Oh yeah, there was a basketball game, but I wasn't watching it. And they asked me to come to the office to meet with them. So I wasn't really doing anything. So I met with them on Sunday afternoon. And here's the story. Mom lost the kids. Grandma and grandpa had the kids for a minute. Then the social worker took the kids away and placed them in two different foster homes. And I asked the grandmother, I said, well, why did they take the kids away from you? Right? Did you abuse them or something? She goes, no. She says, I was just um, not, how did she put it? She wasn't getting along with the social worker,
Yep.
the new social worker at that. So the new social worker took the kids from her
Mm-hmm.
and placed them in different foster homes. Now, guess when that happened? Happened in November 2022. And I said to her, you're just now coming to see me, to talk to me, to call me? You know what the response was? I didn't think the social worker would do this to our family.
Yeah.
I didn't think the social worker would do this to our family.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we're very thankful for, at least, is the youngest three are together in one home.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, it's a family at the church that we were going to at the time, that we are no longer going to, that do want to adopt the three youngest ones. So at this point, that is what their goal is adopting out the youngest three. That we're just
And
that.
are you going to accept that, or are you going to do something about it? Now, I'm not telling. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you start a revolution. Okay, I'm not
Right.
telling you to do anything. I just want to know: are you going to do something? If it was me, I would do something, right? But some people are, they have different wishes and different agendas, and that's good. I'm not here to make a judgment call, but are you thinking about doing anything?
If I knew what to do, absolutely.
Okay. Well, how about this? You get on Google and find a lawyer in your area that does CPS cases and go for a consultation. How about that?
Okay.
And then, you might have to call 5 lawyers, 10 lawyers.
We have
20.
called everybody from here to Greensboro. Actually from here to Charlotte, trying to find somebody that would take the case. And either they don't take CPS cases, or it's $100,000 to walk in the door, which we don't have.
Well, I have to tell you something. $100,000. Are you sure?
That was what we were quoted.
100,000.
Yeah.
Wait, 100,000 from who?
Don't say any
Oh,
names.
sorry. I am.
But from a lawyer in North Carolina quoted you $100,000.
There were the only 5 that would actually take a CPS case. That was the amount that they quoted.
Oh yeah, because that's right. I forgot. Not too many attorneys do that over there. So yes,
Right.
yeah. So the attorneys that are able to fight in those states, they upper the retainer because they say it's a lot of work.
Well,
So
it's a
you're
lot.
justified.
It's a lot of work. I don't know if it's $100,000 worth of work, but who
I
am
mean,
I?
they're not traveling anywhere. They're in the state, right?
Right.
Well, well.
I'm kind of flabbergasted, but keep calling. That's the first thing you got to do, Beth. You have to.
Have attorneys, Vincent, in North Carolina that can
The
do.
first thing that we were
Georgia, don't say that, because there are attorneys everywhere. And if you don't find somebody in North Carolina, go to South Carolina. Don't find somebody in South Carolina, go to, Virginia. But you got to find someone, because look, Beth, I don't want to alarm you, but if you don't do something, you're going to lose these grandkids.
Yeah.
So, it depends on how much, you want to do something.
Yeah. The first thing that we ran into was, because there were so many with the exes, there were so many different attorneys' offices that were involved in the case that it would have
Mhm.
been a conflict of interest. So that
Right.
basically took care of everybody local.
Right.
You know, then it was just not wanting to take CPS cases was the main thing that we ran into.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to tell Davis, but he told me not to say that. So he said, please don't say that. So I'm not going to say it, but thank you for saying it, Beth.
So
I have called you. I have called.
I get the memo.
I love you. But honestly, last year I called a lot of states, and I have it documented in my notes. And North Carolina was one. Just one.
Well, I know I don't know them. I met several that did CPS cases in Greensboro. So
Well,
check the local bar association in Greensboro, because I was actually on the ground in Greensboro in CPS court there.
they were
Okay.
bombed.
We are also working with Operation Stop CPS, that was created by Amanda Wallace. She is a former caseworker for CPS that has started
Really?
being an advocate for parents. We have been working with her for quite a bit now.
You know, I would like to interview her, former CPS worker turned advocate for parents.
Yeah,
Beth, do you know how to get in touch with her?
yeah.
You know, you cut out there. Beth, do you know how to get in touch with her?
Yes, I do. I can send you her contact information.
Do me a favor, send it to Miss G,
Okay.
and Miss G will contact her and try to invite her on the show.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I think we should be banding together trying to help people.
Yes. And also in other states as well. That's my whole goal. But people have been abandoning the situation, the fight for some reason. A lot of people just say the social worker threatened them that if they fight, they will be targeted, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, I know one thing on the petition that they used to remove the kids. It was not signed by a judge, and it did not have a court seal on it.
Beth, don't go
That's
that.
a lawsuit.
Beth, don't go down that route.
Okay.
It's a red herring.
A
It's a
what?
red herring. Okay. You know, that's almost akin to people that call me up and tell me the federal common law says blah, blah, blah. All right. It doesn't work.
Well,
And you'll be laughed out of court.
yeah,
But
the
doesn't
reason
it be
that
signed?
is it was signed, but it has the person's name signing on behalf of the judge. But the reason that I brought that up is one of the next counties over from us had North Carolina DHHS step in to do an investigation, and there was a caseworker that they found that they had issues with petitions with. I'm trying to word it so that it's not.
Because of that issue, did anybody get their child back?
Huh?
Because of that issue, did anybody get their child back?
No.
Right.
Not that I know of yet.
Right. So, moral of that story is, so what? It doesn't work.
Okay.
That strategy doesn't work. Now, there are a lot of strategies that could work. That ain't going to be one of them.
Right.
Okay. So, stick to the facts, the law, and the equities. You don't have to write that down. It's going to be on the websites, on the social media forever.
Okay.
The facts, the law, the equities.
Okay.
That's basically what judges are interested in. You know, and I say judges. I'm not saying social workers, because I don't know what in the world they're interested in. But
Right.
you know,
Well, we have the caseworker has committed perjury, that we have medical records that prove. but what do you do with them? How do you
Okay,
um
you talk to the parent's attorney. You present that evidence. You appeal if nothing is done. You claim, I don't know if North Carolina has this, ineffective assistance of counsel. You file a federal lawsuit, but you have to do something. A lot of times I hear people talking, complaining, but they don't do anything. Talking's not going to get you these kids back.
right. So what would the action steps be there?
I don't want to sound flippant, but step one is to talk to attorneys.
Okay.
That's step one. You
Okay.
cannot do this by yourself. Please don't try. Like they say on the TV, don't try this at home. Don't try this at home. It's not going to work. 1 out of 1,000 is what I believe it might work, but it's too important of a case for you to take those types of risks. Right? That's not even 1%. It's less than 1%. Try the high probability move. Get a lawyer that is in your area, that practices in these areas, that does civil rights cases.
And quickly. But
Yeah,
even if you do the civil rights, doesn't mean you're going to get your grandkids back. So a lot of people win their civil case, but they think winning is going to get them their kids back. It's not true, according to Attorney Davis. What I'm saying.
that's true. Did you know that you could lose the child in a CPS case, sue the social worker, and if you win, you get past immunity, qualified immunity, and if you win, you only win money. You
Mm.
don't win getting the child back.
You can pay off the social worker, but he or she doesn't get fired either. So
That doesn't seem right, does it?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
welcome to America, Beth.
Right. I have learned so much about this, going back to the 1997 Adoption and Safe Families Act
Mhm.
and the incentives that they get for removing the kids from the homes, for placing them in foster care instead of with family, um, and if they adopt them out through foster care. And
Mm.
it's just mind-boggling that that's not a conflict of interest in any way, shape, or form.
Well, wait a minute. I'm glad you said that, because
Hi, Maria.
this highlights something that I say to people all the time, and they don't get it, or they don't want to get it. Do you know in your heart of hearts what a conflict of interest is?
Oh yeah, we
And
talked about that.
and do you think that's actually the law? What you believe a conflict is in your heart of hearts? And the answer is they're not the same. You see, a conflict of interest is what the law says it is, not what you think in your heart it is. You get the difference?
Mm-hmm.
I could, you say, well, that's a conflict of interest. Not if the state legislature or the court said it's not a conflict of interest. Well, it doesn't seem right. Yeah, it doesn't seem right, does it? But that's the law. I want you after this show to go to YouTube, go to my YouTube channel, and I have a video. Just search it. What is justice? It's a 7-minute video. I'm standing in front of a whiteboard talking to two actual clients. As a matter of fact, one of them took that video and gave it to me, and I posted it on YouTube. It explains to you the difference in what justice really is and what you think it is, because they're not the same. There's about a 5% similarity. There's a 95% dissimilarity, and you're operating on something that's 95% wrong. Now, I didn't make the law. I can just try to help you use the law to get what you want. I'm not here to change the law. A lot of people think, hey, if you sue somebody, you sue CPS, you're going to change the law. That's not true.
No.
It is not true. All right.
I did also go to our state legislators' office in Raleigh. My daughter and myself and my sister, all that were willing to take the children in, went and had a meeting with him and a liaison from North Carolina DHHS back in August. And really nothing came of it, but
Yeah,
that was
I mean,
who we were told that
nothing's
we
gonna nothing's gonna happen.
right.
They're just stroking your hair, making you feel good about the fact that we're gonna steal your grandkids. Hopefully, you don't go out and start a riot, a rebellion.
Right.
That's not going to do anything. I I'm not saying this has never happened, but in my limited experience for 37 years, I've never seen any political intervention actually help. I've never seen it. So, I mean, people tell me they're doing this, they're doing that, they're going to talk to the governor, blah blah blah. That ain't going to do anything. When Trump was president, people had his ear on the CPS thing. Nothing ever happened. And if somebody was going to do something, it would have been him. No,
Hmm.
nobody else is going to do anything about it unless you get votes and you start voting people in and out of office. Then people will care. Because let me tell you something, and I get this from clients once in a while. They thought until they got caught up into the CPS web that everybody that's involved with CPS was a child abuser, and you know what? F them. We don't care about them.
Hmm.
Not true.
Yeah.
There's real, in my opinion, there's real abuse of power. But it's notifying everyone. It's telling that story. And a lot of people, look, and I get it, a lot of people don't want to tell their story. It's embarrassing. Oh, you're a child abuser? Oh, nobody wants to be around you. But
That's
the social worker lied. Come on. They don't do that in this country. It's freedom and justice for all.
Yeah. One of the most frustrating things through all of this for, like I said, almost 2 years now, is being in court and seeing parents that have abused the kids and that are drug addicts. Um, Either they themselves get their children back or their family members get the children back.
yes, even the family members who sell drugs, they get the kids back.
Yeah.
And I said that but then again, you think I'm saying it to be right, Mr. Davis, but I said that for many years. They always give the children to the abuser, not so much to the good family members and the mothers and fathers.
Hmm.
Not necessarily because they're damaged goods. The ones who are abused are damaged goods. Nobody wants to adopt them. And I heard
That's
that from a social worker. Yeah, I have a couple of friends who used to be social workers and they became my friends not that long ago. But, they opened up a lot on what's going on. But
hmm
they don't want to be, they don't want to be on the show. But I have seen stuff, seen text messages. It's crazy. It's crazy.
A few years ago, this is before COVID.
Mhm,
A friend of mine got me involved in a community organization in South Central Los Angeles.
mhm.
And there's a big CPS office in South Central. It's called the Vermont Corridor Office.
Yes, that's
Huge,
corrupt. Long
huge,
buildings,
huge, huge, huge office.
corrupt.
Built after not the Watts riots, the Rodney King riots, and it's
Mhm,
a magnificent structure.
mhm.
But anyway,
No, it's not. But it is.
I in this community organization that had nothing to do with CPS, by the way. Um, I met two retired deputy social workers. I mean, social workers way up there when they retired. And they, both told me together and separately that They thought reform had to be made, was needed. And I invited them on the show. I was doing the show, maybe once a week then. And they both promised to come on, repeatedly. And they didn't. And, I quit bugging them, but I would run into them occasionally at this community meeting that was like once every other Tuesday or something. And I finally asked one of the, because one was a man, one was a woman. I asked the man, I said, hey, what's up? You know what he told me in all seriousness? He told me that he changed his mind because he felt that if he came on and said something in public on the internet, that they would mess with his retirement.
And his kids.
Now, think about that for a second. Because at first, I considered that to be just the wackiest thing for him to say. But this man had been, I think, with CPS in LA County for over like 30 years. He knew exactly what the problems were. And he was scared of it himself. So I can't blame him. That's his money, that's his retirement, that's his life. I don't blame him for that. Would I do something different? I hope that I would. I don't know. Right? But he didn't come on the show. And I can't blame him for that. But I understand why he didn't. Now, if he was concerned, what do you think people like you, what do you think you're going to get when you go up against the social worker? They're going to try to fight you at every level, every stage. By the way, they have unlimited money, right? They're the government. You got to put two nickels together and hope they last forever.
Right.
But they have money. When I got out of law school, one of the first jobs I had was as a defense attorney in civil actions. And one of the strategies was, and I still see this today, but one of the ultimate strategies in a lawsuit is to run the resources of the other side dry, where they can't afford it anymore. They can't afford to fight. And Georgette has said this one before, and it's so true. Social workers kind of know what economic class you're from. They know what you can and cannot do. And then, if you decide to sue them, you got to find that right lawyer to do it, right? You got to have some money, or he has to have some money. And then you got to still get past the qualified immunity.
Yeah.
You're going to spend the rest of your life trying to do this? So social workers are pretty smug and pretty safe because it's only going to be the outrageous case, where a kid died or something, or outrageous violation of civil rights.
And they still don't take accountability when a child dies.
Right.
They still don't take accountability. Yeah.
So, what chance do you have?
And
at some point, go ahead.
My grandson, he is 6 now, and one of the foster homes that he was in suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns on his feet. And it was. I don't believe it was intentional, but we are so cautious as when we're cooking, and it was a kitchen accident. And making sure that the children are not underfoot, are not anywhere around, especially when we're moving hot objects like that.
Wait a minute. How do you accidentally burn the bottom of your feet?
We were wondering about that. It was supposed to have been a pot of water that was spilt. That I've got the pictures I can send to Miss G of the 2nd and 3rd degree burns on his feet. And he was in the hospital for a week with that.
Oh God.
Care. And nobody in the family could be there or even talk to him on the phone. We have been allowed no contact at all with these children since they were taken.
I don't do this lightly, but you might have one of those cases where you need to file for federal protection. You need to file with the Department of Health and Human Services and the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division in your area, because
Okay.
somebody needs to look at this. I don't know. We have two systems of justice in our country, the state system and the federal system. And the federal system exists to protect the citizens of any particular state
Mm,
from its state government. Now, the founding fathers made this up, 200 and some years ago, right?
mm,
Hmm.
Constitution. So they knew that someone had to put a check and balance on the state judicial system, and
Right.
that's the feds, right? That's the feds. That's why federal court exists, or one of the reasons why it exists. You know, I represent a guy who had a catastrophic injury, and we filed in state court. And because the defendant was a corporation, out of state corporation, they moved it to federal court, claiming they wanted to make sure they got justice, right? And they had a right to do it.
Hmm.
So people use it for different things. You should be thinking about strategies yourself. Listen, Beth, we are coming to the end of the show, and I I just gave out this telephone number, and we haven't taken any calls. And I see all these posts on all the sites. People are asking questions. Maybe Miss G, we should just do a question and answer show,
yeah,
because
but I also
having guests and then doing question and answer, it's kind of,
it's kind of hard to do
yeah.
that. Beth, by the way, I got your number from Grace, the producer, and I'm gonna text you so you can save my number. Okay, and then we're gonna
Okay.
talk after the show, and then we'll discuss the other remedies we were talking about before the show as well. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good, and I will get Amanda's information to you
Okay.
from Stop CPS as well.
Awesome, and we're gonna talk about that too after the
Okay.
show. It's a
Okay.
pleasure meeting.
All right,
Uh,
Beth. Good
thank
night,
you.
and thank you again for joining and sharing your story.
Bye bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much. God
Bye-bye.
bless.
You too, baby. So
Okay.
remember when I told you I had something to discuss, and I said on the show, and I needed to ask you about it on the show.
Okay. What is it?
But then you don't listen to me. But anyways, I'm used to it now. But anyways, um, let me. Okay, so if the juvenile found delinquent by the judge, if a JD case was found delinquent by the judge, um, there's a disposition hearing, correct? Scheduled.
Well, let's get our nomenclature correct. A delinquent is a criminal juvenile. A dependent is a child who's allegedly at risk in a CPS case. In California, CPS workers handle dependency cases, dependent. Probation officers handle delinquency kids, but they're the same. There's an adjudication and disposition, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So when you said delinquent, you just moved out of the CPS world into the probation criminal world. Are you sure that that's what you wanted to ask me?
Yeah, because based on the person that spoke with me today, she said she has a disposition hearing scheduled, and it's an interim. So, which
No,
is
no, that's an interim hearing.
okay. So,
You
what
know,
is interim and delinquent? I mean, I'm trying to piece it together
you
because
you
I've never
you
heard
you,
interim before.
you've got. I'm afraid you might have it all mixed up.
Okay, well,
And
that's the
then,
reason why I wanted to ask you.
and instead of speculating, get a copy of the last minute order and let me look at it, and I can tell you exactly what's going on.
I already asked her.
Okay.
For that. Yeah.
Okay. So once she gets that, because sometimes it's like a 10,000 piece puzzle.
Right.
You just got all these pieces on the table, and it's like, oh my God, where do I start?
Right.
And most people say you start on the corners,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So CPS cases are the same way. If the client doesn't know what's going on, and that's like 85% of the time, right? They have no idea. No one's ever sat down and explained anything to them,
Mhm.
you know. Then we have to get the last couple minute orders, and I can look at them and see exactly where we are on the continuum of a CPS case.
Okay.
Because it depends, you know, it depends on whether it's a disposition hearing or an interim hearing or a 6-month review hearing or the first detention hearing. It all matters because there's different laws that apply, different evidentiary burdens, different strategies.
What does interim hearing mean?
Interim means
Or interim?
ge-
Interim. Sorry.
generally an interim hearing is, you've done the disposition and they've continued it 6 months for a review hearing. All right. And sometimes what some judges do is they set an interim hearing at the 3-month date. And in California, there's no statutory interim hearing. It's just
Oh,
something that judges do to get a feel, if you're doing what you need to be doing, if things are working the right way, that type of thing.
okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Got it.
And in a lot of cases, when you do an interim hearing, some judges rule or have ruled in my cases that you're not even allowed to challenge the report of the social worker at the interim hearing.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. But she thinks tomorrow's hearing is that.
Well, what can I say?
But
That's why I would ask her to get a copy of the order, last minute order, before the hearing starts. I can look at it and then tell her
at
what to
9
talk
o'clock
to
in
her.
the morning, though, Vincent. It's at 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean,
Yeah, most clerk's office open at 8:30. You act like I'm asking for a miracle.
oh no. That's not the point.
Just go to the clerk's office and get a copy of the minute order.
I know. I understand. You said that several times, and before in previous calls I've had. However, when they did go to court, they had me on speaker, and they told them they can't get copies of their minute order, and they had to contact their attorney to get it from them. And then they were like, Miss G, well, Mr. Davis said, and I said, well, I don't know. I've never heard that before.
That in California, that's not the law. Do they do that? Have I heard people say that? Yes, I have.
I've
And
heard people.
generally, what I do if it's in California, since I'm licensed here, I tell them, hand them the phone, and let me speak to the supervisor. If anybody shows up with a valid ID and they want a copy of something from their file, they're entitled to it by law. Period. No, there's nothing else to discuss.
I agree. Okay. All right. I'm
But
just.
but see, sometimes they don't want to give you the reports or the minute orders because it takes a little bit of work to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It used to be they had to go pull the file and make a copy of the minute order. And
Right.
who knows where the file is in that vast clerk's office. But now everything is computerized, and what I'm seeing less and less is the resistance because I can just type in the case number, pull up the minute order, push a button, boom, here's your order, Mr. Davis or Miss, parent or Miss Mother. I don't know
But
if I told you this, the last time I was in India in a case, I went in to the office, right?
is that when I was with you? I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
I went into clerk's office,
Mhm.
asked her for the last 2-minute orders. No problem. Blah, blah, blah. Push button,
But
boom,
you're an
here you go.
attorney, Vincent. You're an attorney.
Right,
Yes.
right. No, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. But when it's computerized now, so it should be less of a problem.
They're looking at people, they're judging people's appearance because the guy that I was on the phone with, his wife, him and his wife, they said, Miss G, the wife said that her husband has tattoos from neck down, right?
Mhm.
And the clerk was looking at him funny. Like
Hey,
he was like kind of, you know what I mean? They judge people's appearance. You
yeah.
know that, right?
Hold on a second. I got to take this call.
Oh,
Somebody's calling in. Hello, this is Attorney Vincent Davis. This is The Secret. How to Fight CPS and Win. Who is this?
No, this is Veronica.
Veronica, speak directly into the phone because people are trying to hear you on the internet all over the world, okay?
no pressure, Veronica.
Veronica, can you hear Veronica, Miss G?
Yes, I can hear.
No, I wasn't asking you, Veronica, if you could hear. I was asking Miss G if she could hear.
Oh,
Can you hear
I'm
Miss
sorry.
G?
My bad. I'm sorry. I was muted. Yes, I can hear her. I'm so sorry. I can hear Veronica, and Veronica can hear me now, right,
Okay.
Veronica?
Veronica, what is your
Yes,
question? What is your call-in question, my friend?
my question is, if there's been a domestic violence in the past and my son is saying that his stepdad physically abused him now, and can they make us split up? And if we don't split up forever, will we never get our kids back and not be together again as a family? Because my appointed lawyer is telling me that.
Okay. That's kind of a complex question.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they cannot make you split up,
Mm-hmm.
but they can make it so that if you don't split up, you don't get your kids back, at least temporarily.
Mhm.
Now, there are different ways to fight that, but I don't know enough about your case. But sometimes, the easiest thing when you have that factual situation, DV, physical abuse, is just to tell dad, hey, dad, move out of the house for now, go live with Uncle Joe, and, we're going to work to get you back in. Okay, so that's an
Oh,
easy strategy where you can get the kid back in the home. Listen, I have a case right now where my client and I volunteered for him to move out of the house so that the mother could keep a child while the case was being investigated and while it's going to trial.
Mhm.
Okay. So
uh,
my client was willing to do that because he didn't want the kid in foster care. Right. And the plan is to
yeah.
get him back into the home, prove
Mhm.
these allegations false, and get him back into the home so that they can be reunited as a family. The law actually says they call it family reunification, right? So no matter what has happened, they want the law wants the family to get back together. However, sometimes social workers don't want that. They just hate the guy, so much, based upon what he allegedly did or didn't do. But, take things one step at a time. Listen to your lawyer, okay? Because he or she knows best, right? Most lawyers aren't going to tell you something that's just flat out wrong. They're not, you know, looking to see you fail, okay? So since he or she knows the case, consider taking that advice. Now, I'll tell you, even if you act like you've, separated from dad, in the future, if things change, you can reunite, you know. So especially in CPS courts, nothing is definitely in stone, except for when you lose your parental rights.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. Because she told me she said
Who's
she
she?
recommends
Who's
that
she?
he moves out, but she made it seem like he to like have him immediately move out, and if you guys stay together, the judge is gonna not give you guys your kids back at all, no matter if we do everything asks for, like, for example, parenting classes or anger management, because there's no about our the domestic violence, there's no evidence or proof of it, or like police reports or anything. It's just that my son mentioned that, and I told her that it. I haven't admitted it to her yet about my domestic violence, but it was more over than like I could say 3 years ago when that happened. But other than that, he hasn't done it ever since. And now that but she did say that, or we stay together and do that, we will not get our kids back, and that it's best for me to leave him forever. And so that's why I was calling, because we got a little worried. We we don't want to do that. Because he's not hurting him or anything. It's just that since he mentioned the domestic violence, and we're like, oh wow, oh. She said to the only way that we can get our kids back is if we admit to it, and that Sergio Garcia has to. I mean, I'm sorry. That he has to
I know.
basically admit
Yes,
to it, and that maybe he can get his kids back like that. But other than that, she said, if we stay together, we can't. We will not be able to get our kids back.
Okay, ma'am. Needless to say, we don't want to mention any names, right? But
Yeah, that's all. Like,
but
oh my God, I'm.
but there is many different legal strategies you can do to win these cases.
they're
The
lying.
one that you just repeated to me, given to you by your attorney, is one strategy. Should you take it? I can't tell you that. I don't know enough about the case. Okay? If it
Right.
was me in this situation, if it was a certain type of case, I would say, have him move out temporarily, and then we'll get him back in the home,
There
right?
you go.
Because you want to think about it. I don't know who the judge is, and every judge, is different. But the key is getting the kid back as fast as possible,
I know.
not proving your innocence.
Hmm.
Okay, those aren't the same things.
Right.
Okay, no, they're not the same.
Because she I haven't really, because it just barely happened. So they were removed on the 18th, but I haven't really been able to. My worker hasn't prescribed. She hasn't given me the what is called the petition or the report. So I really don't know exactly what has been said, but I do know that she said that it's at least 50 pages long, and she said that it's from. Most of it is from my son, my oldest. He's 15, and then some of it is from the neighbors. The thing is that I have an open eviction from my landlord, and she's the one who originally called the CPS on me, and it's because she's like she's been trying to get us out, but and harassing us, and I know that that's the main reason why she called it. And I think that's when my son kind of took an advantage of the fact that, oh, hey, well, I don't like my stepdad, so I'm gonna go ahead and just make up these lies. But that's why I was asking, because she recommended that, but she did not say temporarily. I even asked her, what about temporarily? Can he temporarily get out and to still do the classes and then eventually get our kids back like that? And she said no, that's not going to happen, that the judge is going to most likely not want to give us kids and terminate our parental rights.
Yeah. I want to tell a story.
Damn, that's crazy.
I want to tell you a story that happened to me with a client many years ago, maybe 20 years ago. I represented this guy who was with a woman. They had a brand new baby, and the woman had a daughter from another relationship that was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My guy happened to be a staunch Catholic and very conservative, and he didn't want the 15-year-old, because he was raising her at this point, going out having dates with boys. And the
Right.
15-year-old came up with an allegation that my guy had sexually abused her. And
Wow.
we had a trial. We lost. And then he was criminally prosecuted. He lost. And I think she testified at both places, in both courtrooms. And of course, everybody in my case thought, he had done it. And after he got out of jail, he was deported back to his home country. He wasn't a citizen. Now, fast forward maybe 10 years, 12 years, I'm at my office on Wilshire Boulevard at the time. And it's what they call a Fijian suite, where a bunch of lawyers have offices, but they share the same law library, right there on the floor. And I went into the law library one day, and I was sitting down, and I look over, and who do I see working at a table about 10 feet away from me? The girl that made the accusations. But now she's an adult. right? And so I
Right.
got kind of nervous, and I got up and left, and I was thinking, wow, that was the witness that sent my client to jail and made him lose his 1-year-old child, and you know and he always said
Yeah.
he didn't do anything. Well, a few months go by and I'm in the law library again, and she comes in and she sees me and she walks up to me and she says, Mr. Davis, you don't remember me, do you? And oh, I lost the caller. And I said, no, I remember you. you know um she goes, I really have problems in my life now because of that case. And I thought she was referring to being sexually abused by my client, and that wasn't it at all. She said, she's calling back. She said that the reason why I'm having problems is because I have guilt. I said, guilt about what? She says, because it wasn't true. I lied. And I already knew why she lied, so I didn't ask her because he told me why.
Mhm.
And she said, my biggest regret is that my baby brother, my little brother, has had to grow up without a father. Now, they've tried to contact the guy in his home country, but he's nowhere to be found. I don't know if they just can't find him, or he doesn't want to be found by this particular, family. But it ruined her baby brother's life. It ruined his life. It ruined the mother's life, and now she's being affected by it because of the tremendous guilt that she had. So when people say, hey, do people ever lie in court? Yeah, they
But
do.
may I add to that, if possible? Um,
Were you there?
I'm sorry. No, but may I add my own? Can I just say something?
Of
Okay.
course. Of
All
course.
right. All right. I can't be nice. If I'm nice, you okay? Listen to me. You just said that an innocent man was convicted of something he didn't do,
Mhm.
but the ones who are literally guilty get away with it. Literally get their kids. I'm not joking. Just like I was right about the the drug testing facilities, I'm right about that. I'm telling
If you say you're right one more time, I'm going to mute you forever. Everybody watching this, from the beginning of now to the end of time, Miss G is always right. Can we all acknowledge that? Can you give me an amen in the comments? Okay.
Oh, she said it. Miss
Now,
G's always right. She said it right there.
okay, now that we know, now that we
Lovely
know,
is right. Lovely is right.
now that we know that you're always right, what's your point?
My point is this. I love you too, by the way. My point is this. My point is that the innocent gets convicted and the guilty gets the free card. And this is our judicial system. So they're always, always, always convicting the wrong person. And this is how things work. I mean, this is how it is. The truth is a lie and the lie is the truth. There you go. Get it?
Got it.
So we're being ruled by demons. Literally, this judicial system is demonic. I can say that, right? YouTube is not going to get mad and
I hope not.
suspend our show because of I said demons.
I hope not.
Oh, Michelle said, see, lady, look, read that. I love you. See,
Michelle, we all have our opinions, don't we?
just no matter what. He just wants to mute me. That's all he wants to do. Just mute me forever. And then I'll just be sitting here and he was talking to you guys, right? Oh,
Yeah.
David's world.
Look what Alexandria says.
Miss G gonna get in trouble with that D word. was the name?
Hey, do me a favor, you guys. If you guys are watching on YouTube, please
Ah,
like and subscribe. And if you're watching on one of our Facebook social media platforms, give us a like or a care or a love or something. And we'd be very happy with that. Hey, Miss G, we really have to go. We're way past the cutoff time, but time moves fast when you're having fun, huh?
yes, I know. I love you too.
We'll be on tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we got to figure out this call-in thing because while we were doing the show with the guests, people were just calling and calling and calling, and nobody was answering because I'm doing the show.
Vincent,
And
what's wrong with your eye?
I have a blocked tear duct.
What does that mean? Did you cry? Did I make you cry today, or what happened?
No, no, no.
Then how did you? What does that mean?
Sometimes your tear ducts gets clogged, and you have to put a hot compress on it to unclog it.
And did you do that?
I've been doing that.
Good. Okay. I
All
thought I
right.
was the cause of it, but okay. I'm not the cause of it.
Oh, look at this.
Attorney Vincent is like an angel for us, but on earth.
Bless you, Matt2237. Don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Miss G, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for appearing with me tonight. And I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night, everyone.